Welcome to the Trees and Lines podcast, where we discuss fresh perspectives on utility vegetation management with your hosts, Phil and Tej. Don't forget to follow along on LinkedIn for the latest news. Now, let's dive into this week's episode. We're at the 2025 Trees and Utilities Conference, and this is the next episode of the Trees and Lines podcast. We're welcoming Chris Rooney from Rhode Island Energy. Yeah, welcome, Chris.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, great to have you here.
No problem.
Yeah. I know we had briefly met a couple years ago, and Rhode Island Energy, which is part of PPL, you guys were going through some organizational structural changes. If you wouldn't mind, maybe briefly for the audience, can you take us through a little bit of what happened and what's the world look like today as you're adjusting in a new kind of corporate structure?
Sure. So in 3 years ago, in May of, that would be 2023, officially Rhode Island was sold from National Grid to PPL Corporation.
Yep.
And at that point, we had to basically stand up a new company. I mean, everything from specs to policies and procedures to everything that would have a name on it, especially for my group in the Forestry Department, was brand new.
Yeah.
You can't necessarily grab, the parent corporation stuff from Pennsylvania because the way that they operate and the laws and everything down there is not exactly the same.
Right.
So, and you don't want it to look exactly the same as National Grid either. So you're kind of taking the best of both worlds and coming up with hopefully a nice mix.
And has a lot of your time, have you gotten to a place where you've worked through a lot of that, the impact of that corporate restructuring, and how have you been able to really focus on the nuances and the details of the veg program, or are you still kind of dealing with the fallout of a lot of that
The
stuff?
interesting part is that the veg program across PPL is slightly different in all different states.
Okay.
So we're actually at the next stage of trying to look more in depth at each program and try to get the best of all three to come up with the optimized,
Right.
best veg program.
Okay.
So that's the exciting part now is that, what I think is good might not be what they think is good. And,
Yep.
and there's best practices that we're all learning from. So it's kind of fun.
So if I recall, Chris, your history's been primarily distribution,
Yes,
veg management.
That's
but
correct.
when you took over Rhode Island, you must have also got transmission.
that's correct. I had to pick up transmission responsibilities.
Okay.
Now,
New challenge. And,
very new challenge. The interesting part there is our system's not very big. It's about 350 miles, corridor miles.
Okay.
But the nuances of FERC and NERC and ISO New England and all the behind the scenes protocols are a lot more in depth than distribution.
Yep.
Just because of the business.
Okay. Talk to us a little. Rhode Island is tucked away a little bit, so maybe talk to us a little bit about the localized topography and some of the localized risks and things that you may have to deal with that some of the other utilities and footprints aren't necessarily tackling.
Well, so Rhode Island is 50 miles by 40 miles. It's not very
Yeah,
big.
it's small.
It's almost the size of Houston itself, I think.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
We're divided into 38 cities and towns, and
Wow.
each one is very different than the other.
Okay.
And everything from tree canopy to just the population and everything from Newport, which is world-class trees and organizations, and you're talking European species of trees are naturalized there because that's been developed since the 1600s.
Wow.
To out in the country on the Connecticut line where it's oak and hickory and ash and etc.
Yep.
So the urban forest and the community forest is very different.
Yep.
As far as in that small area.
Yep. So just, I guess, because of that biodiversity, there's a lot for you to consider, I guess, when building a plan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay. How big is the team?
Well, it's not very big, but we have 2 distribution foresters and a transmission forester and
Okay.
myself.
And yourself.
And we have some contracted support.
Okay. Interesting. And for you, how much I know you mentioned you have your parent company, you've got other peers, I guess, that you can kind of engage with. Have you been leaning on a lot of folks throughout the organization to kind of help you shape the strategy, or are you kind of left on a bit of an island?
No, we are a team. As a matter of fact, right after the conference here, I'm headed up to Louisville to talk to the team in general and get on the same page.
Oh, very cool.
Especially regarding safety.
Yeah.
There's so much going on in the industry. We want to make sure that the conversations that we have with our vendors are the same.
Yeah.
And what we're working through with the vendors on their safety programs and making sure they deliver for us.
Interesting.
So you're on the agenda here at the conference.
That's
What's
correct.
the name of the presentation?
So it's legislation as a method to assist vegetation management. So the interesting thing that happened, and this was almost a sweet spot, when PPL came in, we had an in-depth discussion. They said, "What are your challenges?" And I said, "My challenges are inconsistent maintenance across our system. We have the rights for our equipment to be on a road, and embedded in our pole permits, it says the right to maintain your equipment. What does that mean?"
Right.
So we kind of there's always been some support for some legislation to help us define what that is, and with some very good lawmakers and a lot of open contact and a lot of open discussions, we got to that point. And basically what this law enables us to do is take our forestry plan, and this is where I learned a lot because it is soup to nuts. It is everything we do on paper
Yeah.
to the PUC and say, can you help us deliver this plan for our customers?
So for clarity, really what you're saying is, hey, we lobbied for some legislation at the state level that would allow us to operate cost effectively and efficiently and deliver a plan. And without that legislation, we would be limited in how impactful we could be?
Well, we've always been limited. There's always been constraints, whether it be customer or just the nuances of trying to deliver the program. There's always been challenges, and I'm not saying that this is going to cure all of them.
Yeah.
But
super interesting.
The nice part about the legislation is it includes some very formal steps to our community partners, our towns. So the town or the municipality has the absolute ability to sit at the table with us and say, this is what Rhode Island Energy would like to do in our neighborhoods.
Yes.
Let's work together to deliver. The opportunity is there for them. I really hope they take
through that legislative path.
The formality is, a lot of my work plan I'm presenting to them at different times through the year. Hello, we're coming. My vendor's chosen. We're going to be here shortly.
Yeah.
We're looking at hazard trees. Please, let's sit down and get it right.
Because you've put that in place, does that help you then have a more constructive dialogue with your PUC?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, it still isn't. The legislation is in effect. The policies and procedures document was vetted by the PUC all this summer. I presented it Thursday before I left, and the discussion there was amazing. It was talking about win-win. They're on the same page as we are. The advocate for the division was like, this is a win-win for everybody, the customers.
Oh, that's great.
So it really is something special in my opinion.
So has it changed your notification requirements, your clearances?
So that was the nice part, is we did not want to change our spec. Our spec has been pretty solid in delivering what we need to deliver for our customers. Our notification is enhanced. It's a lot more, especially on the municipal side, talking to the communities and saying, hey, we're going to be there. This is a circuit we want to look at. This is the methodology we're going to use to identify hazard trees. Come on board with us.
Yep.
So, we're really hoping that people will take it and run with it.
It's a different angle that you've taken. Like, I'm glad you're speaking on it because I haven't chatted with too many people that have taken on the legislative side and said, we're going to try to solve that way to kind of unlock some momentum with, program.
So what was the process you followed to get this legislation?
Yeah, good question.
Yeah, so the interesting part is that we're kind of in the sweet spot. So Rhode Island Energy covers 98% of all the customers in Rhode Island. So our seat at the table is pretty big.
Yep.
So that helped. What also helped is PPL coming on board, where they could have an honest discussion with the lawmakers saying like, wow, we were surprised that we can't deliver consistent vegetation management.
Yes.
Which was almost informing the lawmakers because they didn't know either.
Yeah.
You know, you can't trim trees uniformly across the state. No, we struggle in certain areas.
Yes.
So that, and then the timing coincided with Maui, California, and we had a few droughts in Rhode Island, believe it or not, at the same time.
Yeah.
So the global impact of that, and if we're going to have a fighting chance of helping to keep the lights on, reduce risk, and stop forest fires caused by that interaction, we need this tool.
Yes. Oh,
The other really nice part that I'm looking forward to is that if we had to make a spec change, so the plan is good for 4 years, and it enables us to come back in 4 years and change any aspect of the program, whether we wanted to make a spec change, whether we wanted to have a notification change, or however we want to operate. If we want to change it, we can. But we have to pitch it to everybody again.
Yes.
So the stakeholders have a say.
The stakeholders absolutely have a say, and we want them at the table. Because I want them to be at the table that if wildfire risk is higher, I want to tell them why we're now looking to clear more.
Yeah.
I want them to be on board so there's no surprises.
Yeah. Where do you think your program is as a percentage of where you want it to be?
I think I'd say 80%.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. I feel confident in a lot of what we're doing. The hard part is, especially with the legislation, it tied up a lot of time.
Yeah.
So, if that gets locked in, we're about to get the ruling. If that gets locked in, then I can focus on a few more things to get us over the bridge, so to speak.
And what about for you personally, Chris? Like, you've got a pretty big job. We get to 100%, right, from a career progression perspective. Like, what's sort of the next step for you? Is it just continuing to fine-tune your program? Like, is there, where does one go when they're kind of running T&D and they run this and they get it to a steady state? Like, how do you continue to kind of grow in your career?
The funny part is that as we were talking, with Rhode Island being, we are 98% of the state.
Yeah.
There is an opportunity to do some really special things. As part of the legislation was a mandated right tree, right place program.
Oh.
So I have to, after this legislation, we're going to build a solid right tree, right place program with community partners and have demonstration areas throughout the state so people can learn and we can reduce this interaction and save money and kind of do that.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a huge opportunity that we're not that big.
Yeah.
So to get the right people at the right place at the table to really help us get some good stuff done, that's what's exciting.
Oh, that's very cool. I know Eversource had made those investments in those arboretums, and I was very impressed with how effective that was with community engagement, right? Because sometimes just seeing things
Absolutely.
Really helps you appreciate and understand. So when it's your tree or your canopy, that's the topic of conversation, you can process the discussion a little bit better.
Absolutely.
So, good
What
for
a
you.
way to raise the profile of right tree, right place, because, most people haven't heard of it or outside of the industry.
Exactly. And that's what I'm looking forward to this conference as well, talking to the Arbor Day Foundation to see if I could get some synergy there and bring it back to Rhode Island and work that way.
Yeah, well, this seems to be the right place. There's lots of time
Absolutely.
to take in. So, well, Chris, great seeing you. Thanks for giving us an update. Sounds like things are going well. Congratulations, and continued success.
All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate being here.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us today. Follow us on LinkedIn for updates and to tune in again to the Trees and Lines podcast.